privilege to be a part of that and to be a piece of it, to not only witness it, but to sometimes help help that process along. When I meet people at cocktail parties or whatever, and I tell them I'm an oncology nurse, most of the time I get a sad face and, oh, how depressing, how sad. And you know what? It is not any of those. For those of you who have already worked in it, it is really the opposite. And do we have people that die? Yes, we do. Do they get sick? Very. I mean, is it hard? Yes. But I guess it's the way that you look at it. And I really honestly believe it's a privilege to work with people, even if they're dying. And it's a way to be a nurse and to, I would say it grounds me more than any other thing. When I hear all the moms at Jeanette, my daughter's a gymnast, and I hear them all upset about whatever it is they're upset about, I always want to say, come spend a day in the cancer center with me. And they look at me like I'm being pissed, because I have said that before. But, you sort of don't worry about, the email that the gym coach sent. He just works with someone who's, looking at life and death. So I have found, for me, it helps to keep me grounded and remember the important things in life. And it also helps me to remember how precious life is and keep me focused on things that I like and enjoy and not worry about the things that we shouldn't worry about necessarily. But so those are the things that have kept me in this field and that keep me interested and keep me working hard at it all the time. Again, when I put the talk together and the title, for those of you who came hoping to hear about some of the details, I didn't want to feel like I did a bait and switch on you and brought you here and then was going to not talk about anything that it sounded like. So I do want to I'll just give you a little smattering of some of the stuff. And if this is why you're here and are interested in more, please raise your hand and ask questions. And the last group had lots of good questions about this as well. But this is one of the things, I don't know how much you've heard, if any, about DNA microchip or microarray analysis. So just like on the little microchip that's in most of your digital cameras, on something just like that, we can take and make something that looks like this. And this is actually, on this axis is patients, so there's hundreds of patients right here, and on the other way are genes. So this little microchip, through computer technology, is able to analyze gene expression from patients' tumors. And so what happens is we take a patient's tumor and we take cells from that tumor and grind it up in certain ways, and then we're able to get it onto something like this. And don't ask me how you do all that, because I don't really know. But what this analyzes is what the genes are doing in those specific, in the particular tumors. How the genes, what is turned on in them and what is turned off. What is telling cells to move and not move, grow and not grow. And what this thing analyzes, the green means that cells are turned on, and in this particular example, it would be a poor outcome. And the red means that certain genes are turned off, which in this example would be a better outcome. And so you can see that in the two opposite corners that certain tumors are segregating in a certain way because of what genes are turned on and off. And the other tumors look differently. So what does this mean for us in taking care of patients? It means that we look at a patient's tumor and can find out characteristics at the molecular level of that tumor and help decide prognosis and treatment based on the specifics of an individual tumor. And that's really, really fantastic. I probably didn't describe it very well because we're skipping over so much stuff, but I hope I'm giving you an idea of just where we are. Another sort of hot, sexy term that you've hopefully learned some about is pharmacogenetics, or pharmacogenomics is is really the new term. If you use pharmacogenetics, that's pretty passé. It's really pharmacogenomics is what you want to use at a cocktail party. But this is where we are analyzing an individual's genetic makeup. And you'll see the word polymorphism in there, which is not something we're going to explain now, but it's really what makes you and I different, what all of us different, because most of our genes are exactly the same. It's these polymorphisms that really make us different. And so these polymorphisms or these differences in our genetics also make us respond differently to different drugs. So it's why one person it's usually an asthma drug or albuterol, a drug you use for breathing, that is a good example. About a quarter of the population has a polymorphism that makes them immune to the effects of albuterol. And that's like the first line treatment of when someone's having an asthma attack. And so for those patients that have that polymorphism, we don't even want to give albuterol because we're going to waste time and make the patient uncomfortable. And so if we knew that about them, then we wouldn't even bother with that drug and we'd go to the next drug. Does that make sense? So that's sort of a general statement, but we're doing the same thing in oncology. And one of the drugs I use, and I could list a whole bunch of drugs, but trastuzumab is a drug that we use for breast cancer. And so again, we take a person's tumor, in this case a breast tumor, and if it has certain genetic characteristics, then we're going to give this drug. If it doesn't have these genetic characteristics or gene expressed, a certain gene expressed, then we're not even going to bother with this drug because it's not going to work. So that, again, is an example of real-time personalized medicine that we use on an everyday basis. And this is a breast cancer example, but we have lots of these examples in many different kinds of tumors and are doing these kind of things for many different kinds of things.
I have a question for you. I was listening, I think it was to Science Friday recently, and they were talking about how there are certain types of cancers that seem like they're being able to do make individual drugs based on the person's genetic makeup. Have you seen that at all in your practice, and do you anticipate seeing more of that?
Yes. So the question is, are we using medicine that's based specifically on that person?
Great.
Yes. We do, but that doesn't happen as often because obviously that's incredibly expensive, but there is some of that that's done more on a research setting. That's specifically, we do that somewhat in lymphomas and melanomas, and for certain, particularly those two kind of cancers, but that's going to be more on a research basis. That's not something that's widely available, I would say, not yet. We have tried that method many times, and it's not been that successful. Unfortunately, one of the reasons I got into genetics, which I'll tell you later, is because I didn't really like chemotherapy. I'm an oncology nurse, but I never liked giving chemotherapy. And it's because it's like I didn't like the idea of having to give drugs that made people sick to get well. It just doesn't make sense. And also I knew that we weren't figuring out what's causing cancer, so how are we going to really get rid of cancer once we figure out what's causing it? So that's how I got into genetics, because I knew that genetics was going to be part of the answer to that. And it turned out that even though we have drugs like trastuzumab, it's really targeted. And as I said, it is individual in that we only give it to the patients who have that. So in that way, yes, we do this all the time. But unfortunately, that drug is not enough. We still have to give chemo. It's still combination drugs that it turns out we typically have to use to get rid of tumors. Cancer is a lot smarter than we would have thought it would be, I guess. So it's a very difficult disease to treat. So it's taken more than the individualized drug. And almost every instance, it still takes beyond the one that we think is going to be the Gleevec, for any of you who know chronic myelogenous leukemia, that's another one of the most famous. A guy from the University of Oregon there was a student here from there, who really discovered that. And how they discovered that drug was they found the etiology of the cancer. They did it very rationally. The etiology of that cancer is a genetic translocation, Philadelphia chromosome, if you've learned any of this in school yet. But so they knew the Philadelphia chromosome and its genetic translocation was the etiologic culprit, the cause of the CML. And so they rationally designed a drug to combat that, to really take care of that translocation. And that was Gleevec, and that really cured CML, which was never a curable disease. But it has also proven to not be as perfect as we thought it was, even though it was completely rationally designed for that specific tumor. So does that answer your question? So let me just go through a little bit of kind of what my career trajectory has been, and hopefully give you some, even though you've not asked my advice, I'll take the opportunity to give it anyway since I'm up here. But I started out as a student in the recovery room, which I love. I've loved all my jobs, so I say that. There's not one that I haven't enjoyed. But I was in the recovery room, and I liked it very much. But I realized there that I really probably wasn't one that wanted to be in the operating room or associated with the operating room, because I wanted to know what happened to these people. And I wanted to know sort of their story before and after. And particularly in the recovery room, you get a very small window of what's happening with the patient. And for me, that just wasn't, that didn't turn me on that much. But it was a great experience, of course. Then when I was, and this is the advice, when I was a new graduate, when I was in nursing school, and we were all looking for jobs, and I know many of you are in that position now, and unfortunately, as I understand it, in some parts of the country, there are not a lot of jobs. Well, I can tell you at the University of Kansas there are jobs, and in Kansas City there's jobs, so if you want to come and move, there are jobs. They just may not be where you live now. But anyway, at the time, I kind of liked, from my schooling, I knew I liked med-surg. And I wanted to sort of be in the med-surg area of all your different areas that you have clinicals in. So I narrowed it down to med-surg, and then I kind of liked oncology, and I kind of liked cardiovascular, two big areas of med-surg. And at the time, and I was going to work, I graduated from the University of Kansas, where I am now, and when I wanted to stay there, I was going to stay there for a year and get that good year of experience and then move on to sort of the fancier hospitals and the better pay and the better benefits and all that. At the time, the university didn't compare to any of those, but I wanted to stay, I wanted to do kind of that year of hard knocks experience. And I watched what you do because I ended up staying for 15 years. And that's you probably will end up staying where you start out, at least for a while, I would say, so you might think about that. But at the time, there was the unit, the oncology unit was a unit in transition. It had a lot of turnover, it didn't have a stable staff. And actually, the nurse recruiters were trying to get a whole bunch of us from our nursing class to go to the oncology unit, to go sort of en masse, so that we would be able to build up their staff, and we would all have each other, and we'd be our own support group, blah, blah, blah. So that was one of choice. And the other choice was I liked cardiovascular, and they had a cardiovascular combined CV cardiothoracic surgery unit. So it was both medicine and surgery. It was a much more stable staff. And I ended up choosing to not go en masse to the oncology unit, and most of this en masse group that was looking at it ended up not doing that. And that was probably one of the best choices I ever made, and would be my advice to you. And it was dumb luck on my part. But the reason I think it was the best choice is because I went to a unit where there were strong nurses that were able to teach me how to be a good nurse in real life. And I know you're learning how to be good nurses in school, but you also know that what you're doing in school is not real life. And so you need good mentors out there who are going to help you in the real world. And I would say go where there's good, strong staff, and particularly staff that you can connect with and that you feel confident in. There's lots of places where we cut corners and where we are asked to do things that is either out of our scope of practice or is probably not the best choice, or we're constantly pushed into doing things that may not be good. And you want to learn from the nurses who are the best. And particularly when you're new, because you're obviously going to be the most, you need that guidance now. You're not going to be confident enough to stand up to someone more experienced. So you want the experienced people teaching you the right things. And I'm not sure we would have gotten that on our own or without that strong staff as we've gone. And I have to tell you, I think that those nurses that first taught me gave me such a great foundation that have made me who I am now, and I think a very good nurse now. And it's all that original, when I was really right to learn things, I learned things in the right way and had the right support. So that would be my biggest piece of advice as you're looking at jobs. So anyway, I stayed on that unit for a couple of years, and then I got bored. So I thought I loved what I was doing. I liked the patients. So the thing to move up was to go to the ICU. So I went to the ICU, and I liked that very much as well. And I stayed there a couple of years, and then was getting bored, wanted to go up again, and thought I wanted to work in the cath lab, in the cardiac catheterization lab, and do electrophysiology stuff. And so I was hoping for a position once the cath lab opened up, where there was a position in there. And at the time, there was no position, but a position at the university opened up in oncology, like an expanded role nurse in both inpatient and outpatient oncology. And I looked at that and I wanted to interview for it for the experience of interviewing, because it was interviewing with physicians and nursing people, and I'd never done the physician interview thing. And anyway, I thought I'm going to do that just to get experience, so that when that cath lab job opens, I'll be better at interviewing with all the different kinds of people you have to interview. So you could probably guess that I interviewed for that job, and lo and behold, they wanted to hire me. And I went ahead. I really did not want that job. I just interviewed for it. But, they wanted me, and I turned out I wanted them, and it was great. It was really great. And that was my entry into oncology. Again, there were 3 other nurses there. It was a new position. And so, again, I had that great mentoring, really great mentoring. I wasn't alone. I was still young. I mean, I'd only had a couple years, maybe 3 years of nursing experience. And, again, they helped shape me when I needed the shaping from really, really good quality nursing. And then, I almost forgot this when I was with the last group, but I got laid off. This was the time I was actually hired under a grant. I was in oncology. There's lots of cooperative group studies, clinical trials that goes on. It's really just general. Any oncology practice, you're going to have patients on studies, and even in rural areas, you're likely to have patients on clinical trials. And so at that time, cooperative group or the clinical trials area was very big. There was lots of money coming from the government. And anyway, so I was hired under that grant. And of course, this was in the mid-'80s, I guess. And it was the first time that one of those grants got cut. Of course, now those grants have been cut to practically nothing. But I was the last one hired, so the first one to let go. And at the time, I thought it was really devastating and how horrible, and I found this field I loved and blah, 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 and oh, for me, but guess what? It turned out to be a great thing because because I probably wouldn't have left that job if I didn't have to. But because I had to leave, there was a position with a surgical oncologist that opened up around the same time. And so I was in the same institution. So I was able to move from this medical oncology position to a surgical oncology position and work with a surgeon. And it turned out to just be fantastic because it just broadened my understanding of oncology. It was sort of another realm of oncology care. Medical oncology is more the chemotherapy part. Surgical oncology is obviously more the surgery part. Although this surgeon did his own chemo, so he was in the operating room, and I took care of the patients afterwards and gave him chemo. And in those days, we gave chemo for 1 to 2 years. We actually had a clinical trial where we compared weekly chemotherapy for 1 year versus 2. Can you imagine? I mean, we don't do anything like that anymore. So I saw these patients, talk about long-term relationships, I saw them every single week for a year or 2, and gave them chemotherapy. So it was a great, what was bad turned out to be great, and it taught me a whole other field of oncology, and I got to work with surgeons and the whole surgical area, and that turned out to be great. And so it just opened up doors that you never thought would happen. Well, the other thing that happened, surgeons like to operate, right? And they want to be in the operating room. They don't really care about everything else that happens afterwards. And here was a surgeon who was doing his own chemotherapy. So I, of course, was left pretty much on my own to do all the other stuff. And I didn't have a master's. I hadn't gone back to school yet. And that experience taught me that that's where I went back to school. I knew I had to get back to school because I was asked to do things that I really wasn't trained to do, wasn't licensed to do. It was a different time then, but and again, that mentoring that I had was able to give me the confidence to when the surgeon asked me to do things that were really more than I should be doing as a staff nurse, I was able to stand up and say, I can't do that, or, that isn't appropriate for me. So anyway, that was that really good mentoring. And again, he turned out to be one of my greatest mentors as well. I was a nurse that, the nurse before him had never asked any questions. She just did whatever he wanted her to do. And I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I'm just saying, for me, it didn't seem like it was within my scope of practice. It didn't seem like I was trained to do many of the things that he would have liked me to do. But I was able to, I knew my limits and my boundaries, and I was able to stick by them. And so we had a great relationship. And he taught me a lot, and I think I taught him a lot, which turned out to be really good. But I realized I had to go to graduate school. So, and the reason I wanted to bring that up is I was able to get an American Cancer Society scholarship. I'd already worked in the field. I knew I wanted to stay in oncology, so I looked to the American Cancer Society to get a scholarship, and they actually gave me enough money that I could go to school full-time and get my master's in 2 years full-time. So those scholarships are still available. They're widely available, and not only are there ACS scholarships, excuse me, but there's also the Oncology Nursing Society Foundation has scholarships. So there are many avenues. I know that's probably the last things I want to think about now, but put in the back of your mind that there are ways to help you to get your graduate school paid for, particularly if you're going to stay in oncology. So then, anyway, after graduate school, I stayed at the university and did lots of different things, which I won't bore you with. I even did some administration. We opened up a brand new cancer center there, and I was able to be the director of nursing, and I did administration. I learned in that experience that I'm not an administrator. I don't like administration. I like clinical practice. I like taking care of patients. And so that was a good experience, but I realized it's not something I want to keep doing. At the time that I was doing this administration, big-time administration job, and obviously getting bored and not liking it, I heard a geneticist speak. and it was a cancer geneticist, and that lecture, I don't even know who it is. I wish I did now, but that lecture turned me on like no other lecture had ever had before. And it was, and I already told you, I didn't really like chemotherapy. I didn't like how, it seemed like everything we were doing in oncology was backwards. But here is this cancer geneticist who was telling us about how the biology of cancer works. And that just really got me going. And so then I was at the right place at the right time and was able to start over again. And I went and got training in genetics and really started from scratch and essentially became a family genetic counselor that eventually led to my own practice in cancer genetics. And I just wanted to show you how fun it can be. This is the building where my office was, and just this is, the thing on the outside of the building to say what there is. And, I'm just a regular old nurse, and here I have my own office. And here's the inside of my office where I counsel patients. You can see the giant picture of my children, and I can't even clean up the desk for the picture. But my kids are a little bit older now. But this is a marker board table. You can write on the table, and in genetics you draw the family tree, and so I draw a lot of pictures and show a lot of pictures, and so I used our table to draw on. It was very fun. So you never know where nursing is going to take you, and who would have ever thought that I would be able to have my own practice and make my own money and my own decisions and all that sort of thing. So it really, really is has been a fantastic career, and you can see quite varied. What I want to talk about now, just for a minute, is the Oncology Nursing Society. Oh, God, time goes by so fast. I'm so sorry. The Oncology Nursing Society is our professional organization for oncology nurses, and it's one that I hope if you get into this field you will become a member of, because it's, you guys are all joiners and doers, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. And so that's been the other thing that's probably been the best thing that I've done is I'm a joiner and a doer too. I've joined and I belong to several professional organizations. I pay for them all myself. I think it's worth it and it's part of being a professional. But I actually get involved in the ones that I believe in and do the work that I want to do. And sometimes I go from being really active in ONS, and then I kind of step back from ONS and I do more in the genetics groups. And then my AD, I get a little more with them, and I move back to ONS. And so, anyway, it's worked for me, and you guys are joiners and doers, so I hope that you will also find in whatever field you end up in that you continue involvement like you have in NSNA. But this is a building that is owned by oncology nurses. This building was built and paid for and is owned by us. And I think that is really cool thing. This is our office, our headquarters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Our vision is to lead the transformation of cancer care, and our mission is to promote excellence in oncology nursing and quality cancer care. And these are lofty goals, but ones that are certainly very, very important, and that's why I volunteer my time for this organization, because I believe in it. ONS is actually, we have a family, what we call a family of corporations. The ONS, Oncology Nursing Society, is the membership part of it. We also have the foundation, which I should know the numbers, but we give out like $40 million worth of scholarships every year. I might be wrong on how many zeros or what the number is, but we give a lot of money away. And we have a lot of money in the foundation. And so this is a place I want you guys to look towards if you need help. We give money for research projects, sometimes community projects, but also schools. So, again, it's money that the foundation is our fundraising arm, much like yours is with NSNA. Then we have the Oncology Nursing Certification Corporation, which is our certification arm for oncology nursing. And then we have ONS Edge, which is sort of the piece that tries to make money for members without charging members more dues, and that's mainly educational stuff. These are our core values, which are probably very similar to NSNA and are all important and guide us in our work. Our organization was founded in '75, and we have over 35,000 members worldwide, but mostly in the United States. There's also 230 local chapters around the country that range in size from 10 to several hundred in big cities. And we also have many special interest groups. Now, special interest group is like genetics. Cancer genetics is a special interest group. Bone marrow transplant is a specialty area. Anywhere there's a group of nurses from around the country that are interested in a topic, they can form a special interest group after they go through certain things. But your subspecialty areas within oncology, we have big for. And all of that is part of your membership. You get one free membership. You can join a SIG when you become a member. One SIG, and then you can pay a small, like $50 to join others. Most members of our organization are staff nurses, and there's a small percentage that are advanced practice. Most are regular staff nurses. We have two meetings, one in the spring, and that's our big meeting. There's about 6,000 who attend that meeting. It's like this meeting is just a little bigger. And then there's a smaller meeting in the fall that is about 1,600 attend that. They rotate around the country, usually west, middle, and east coast. It goes like that this year. Our annual meeting is the one in the spring, and it's in a few weeks in San Antonio. Last year it was in Philadelphia, I think, and so next year it must be on the West Coast somewhere. The nice thing about membership is it really is a value. I do belong to a lot of professional organizations, and truly ONS is one of the best bargains. It's $100 to be a full member, although you guys get discounts, so I'll tell you about that in a minute. And it sounds like a lot of money, but you get 2 journals and a newsletter. You get discounts on books and all. I mean, it's well worth $100, particularly if you get involved, like many of you probably would. It is the organization that helps. We like to make sure we have a seat at the table where we need to, when decisions are made about anything related to cancer, that we are there for our patients and for our profession. And that's not only does our organization provide these services specifically to every member, but globally as a nursing profession, we are really an important voice that tries to be at the table where decisions are made related to cancer. And that's where the practice guidelines and standards and all those kinds of things come in. I only wanted to show this to show you that there are ways for you all to get involved. We do things through project teams, so they're very focused on whatever topic. You can get in, do some good work, and get out. It's not a long-term commitment. If you want a long-term commitment, like running for the board or being on committees, you can also do that. But you can be involved on a national level on a specific area or topic, and you know, particularly as new nurses and students, you know, you can get involved now if you're willing to, and really do good. You know, you meet people from all over the country and you learn things, and then you may end up talking here like I have. This is our website. Yeah, watch what you wish for. This is our website, ons.org, and I'm going to skip through all these so I can open it up for questions in a second. For students, as NSNA members, you can join, get all those benefits we talked about for only $25. It's a bargain, and it's very worth it. You can also be part of the local chapter as an NSNA member, so it's wherever you live. You can check out if there's a chapter in your area, and then you're welcome at those meetings. Again, that might be a way to get jobs, to meet people, figure out what units are strong and not, all the good networking things that you guys know. Let's see what else. And then the other thing, for those of you who are already working in oncology, this is a great resource. It's on our website, ons.org, but Fingerprint, this gives you all the, really the tools for new nurses in oncology. This is a quick way for you to find practice guidelines, symptom management, just quick and easy things to get your feet wet in taking care of these patients or to look things up. We also have areas of resources for patient education that you can get to patients that are made specifically for patients. As I said, we're located in Pittsburgh. And then quickly, and I'm so sorry about the time in my slides, but certification, I just have to put a plug in for certification. We do have, you're not eligible to take a certification exam until you've even practiced as an RN for a year. So it's not something you can do right away, but I can tell you that it's a fantastic way to make, not only to show your commitment in the field, but also to be able to show employers, prospective employers, your current employer, as well as patients, that you have a certain level of knowledge and expertise in a specialty area, and it's hugely valuable.
Can you pursue that certification even if you're not working as an oncology nurse? Like I work in long-term care. We have a lot of cancer patients where I work.
Good question. The question was, can you get an oncology certification if you're not working with oncology? You have to be able to show you see a certain number of oncology patients. So it's in your long-term care position, you see oncology patients. And, I mean, really almost in any unit anywhere, you're going to see a fair number of oncology. So you just have to be able to show that. Yes. And these are the different certifications that we have. We have regular OCN, which would be the staff nurse level, and then adult or pediatric. And then there's two advanced certifications for nurse practitioners or clinical nurse specialists. So there's two levels of exams depending on your schooling and then experience. And I just can't say enough about the value of certification and what it can do for you. Particularly if job markets are tight, it can absolutely talk about the difference between you and another candidate because you've done the extra to, and the same even with belonging to organizations. Make sure that's on your resume and make sure, I mean, it just says something about you that you're willing to do the extra and that you're probably a higher caliber person that's going to do particularly certification, but even membership in professional organizations. So I'm going to stop now and see if there's any questions, and I'm sorry I had to rush through this and we didn't get more discussion.
Going back to the previous slide, the AOCN are those just general kind of blanket for adult and pediatric, or do they have specialties for different?
I think they're both adults, but I'm not sure about that. If they have peds, there's going to be a small portion of it. That's a good question, and I'm sorry I don't know the answer to that. You can go again to our website and then to OSCC, and the blueprint is, I know that taking another test is not something you guys want to think about doing, but it's probably not that harder than anything you've already done, so it probably is a good time when you're pretty fresh to take the test. And then it's renewable every 4 years, I think. Every 4 years, every 5 years, something like that. You have to keep it current. Any other questions or comments? Thank you all so much for your attention.